Well, I didn't see that coming, but I'm glad it did because it shook up the season pretty nice and it is good potential foreshadowing for what's going to come because, as I've been alluding to, having 20 people and this season wasting days, they put themselves in a little bit of a tough position because since they've got the loved one visit, that'll take up day 31, and then of course there's day 39 where no one gets voted out, and since there's 9 people in the game, they have to get rid of 6 people in 7 days. Come on, how did they not realize that this was coming? Now, it does have potential, to shake things up, but we got 3 episodes, so these things are going to be jam-packed. It's just like, huh? Yeah, I thought they were done with the whole wasting days thing. I mean, like, what? Do you guys seriously not want to get rid of more than one person in an episode? You've done it before, and you don't even have to do double tribals anymore. You can just sacrifice reward challenges or do another immunity run at Tribal Council. You've done that before. Come on. So anyways, jumping into the first half of the episode, which most of us have probably forgotten because of what happened at the second half, I don't really think that there was anything to discuss really before the reward challenge because it was just repeated later on in the episode, and I thought it was very interesting what David was trying to do at that reward challenge, but at the same time the swim part of this, there was very minimal bits of that. And then Jay drawing the odd rock, I thought that that was pretty amusing, although I am glad that they're doing rocks more often now because if it's teams, it's going to be a lot obvious to see who's ostracized. I mean, like, we wind back to Philippines. Abby ended up being the person that was ostracized, and the teams ended up straight being Tandane versus non-Tandane. So just, yeah, make them random. Force people who don't want to work together have to work together. Do that a little bit more. And Jeff prophesizing Purple's comeback as huge. It wasn't huge. They were only just barely behind in the physical component, and then they got lucky with placing one block in there. You do realize that all those blocks, 6 different faces, so they got 48 sides to work with here. Just, 24, sorry, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Just, it wasn't that huge of a comeback. Either team could have won that. They got lucky. Come on, Jeff. So, during the reward, we get an interesting moment from Brett, who I've been kind of unsure on how I feel about him, determining if he's just a player that's like added to the game like Sunday, or if he's like Zeke and David, who have a real story going on, and then he reveals that he's gay, and that illustrating the difference between how his generation deals with it compared to Zeke, even though Zeke stated right at the beginning of the show, he's like right at that borderline, so it's real tough to be sure. But that was still a nice moment because it reminded us of the concept of this show and how there is a little bit of a difference, but it also goes to show, like I said in my co-run finale video, in the actual season, the labels mean nothing, really. If this was old school Survivor, it would mean something, but we're on past old school Survivor and we're never going back. Yeah. And we shouldn't anyway, right? And then the whole business about the Gen Xers turning on each other, well, given Jeff's narrations, if you, opening narration to the episodes, if you listen to them, that was kind of spoiled for us. That's one reason why I don't do that too often now, because or really for like any TV show with the previously on, because they indicate something that we're going to want to focus on in a certain episode. It's the same thing with these next time bits. I'm starting to think I should just stop watching them because given some of the foreshadowing that they showed for next episode, yeah, come on, right. So the immunity challenge, David pulling it out, well, it's just getting him to be a lot closer to what he wants and to leave the game as a little bit of a different person, kind of like how Cochran's story arc should have gone on had a lot of us liked him in his first season and was closer to what happened to him in a Caramone, but I'm not going to really talk about Caramone, yeah. And I'm not trying to say that David is like Cochran, because you got to remember, Cochran wasn't really liked in South Pacific. David here is liked. He just makes moves that just make us go like this. You know, because the saying, play survival like you play your life. I think David is doing that, but he just has no clue what he's doing. Yeah. Although he is definitely getting better, right? And his antics do help remind us, though, that even though people get annoyed at each other during this season, outside of this game, they've got no problems with each other, which is a little bit of a change, because for the past few seasons, we've kind of gotten accustomed to casts being at each other, even though they can kind of put it aside, but they're not entirely happy about it, because that's what happened in Co-Ron, that's what happened in Worlds Apart on a much bigger level, and that's what happened in Cambodia, but part of the reason for that is we had seen all these people before, so we knew what they were capable of. We were all placing our bets, and saw what happened, yeah. So then it became apparent that it was either Chris or Jessica going, and I felt like the odds were more likely that Chris was going to go just because he did have the better personality, although it was a little shocking to see how quickly Zeke cut him loose, but he brought up the point that Steven has been regularly trying to emphasize to us, that alliances don't work the same way anymore. The game is going to keep changing, and I think he's right, because just like Chris was fine last week, and then all of a sudden, he wasn't. Zeke almost got booted. Hannah is suddenly rising up prominently, and Zeke distanced himself from her because of one thing she said. Goes to show, people could have turned against Rob, Coach Kim at any time. Chose not to. Come on, people. Yeah. So that takes care of on that first episode. Then the second episode, cheat sheet, yeah. The reward challenge, cool twist, but dynamics on it didn't feel that much to me. And then as for the Zeke and Hannah breaking up, I think I've said all I want to on this, although it is interesting to see her rise prominently in the game. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention about Ken, like him getting featured during this episode. That really made me go, this guy's been invisible for a few episodes now, something's up. Well, that's kind of what began to happen during this episode, although it was completely different from what we would have otherwise figured, yeah. So that was interesting. And then all the differing between the targets, well, that goes to show how fast this game could change. And like, I would never have prophesized Zeke, Brett, Sunday, Will, Jay all working together to try and vote out Hannah. So it's going to be real interesting. And it's hilarious how that once Jay's allies are gone, suddenly it's like, oh, he's got an idol, but now that's really all he's got, even though he totally owned that challenge. But for many people, slide puzzles aren't actually that tough, and I haven't tried one as an adult, but I do know the idea is, get the rows until there's only 2 rows left, and you work on columns at that point, but it's a lot harder at that point, and in a way, you gotta be a little bit lucky. And of course, because it's an 8-piece slide puzzle, and usually, they've got one puzzle piece that's real close, so just, yeah. I know some bits. It'll take me a few minutes to solve them, and I'm sure I could, but someone would probably beat me. That's what I think, of course, and I'm no real expert on my survivabilities. And as I've stated before, I'm never trying out for a reality show, so there you go. So I think that I can fast forward to the tribal here, although I was a little disappointed to not see people talk about Adam's position in this game, because he seemed to be like the one person that we didn't hear much from, because I think we even heard more from Will than we did from him. That's interesting, yeah. So then, tribal, again, people being totally honest with each other these days, yeah. Honesty, a new thing. And then David playing that idol towards Ken, that just did not totally make sense to me at all, and everyone seems to think that Adam was the person who told him to do that, but just, what's the logic? What? Yeah, and if Steven brought up an interesting point. If that is true, why didn't Adam just play his idol? Oh, but then again, everyone knows about his advantage, so if he probably does that, but wouldn't they guess that Adam has an idol because there's 3 idols? David's idol is gone. They know Jay has the idol, so just doing the math. I think that they should guess this. Yeah. Oh well. So it was interesting to see how this time people were a lot quicker to decide, that we're just going to go to rocks because we don't want to, but it's cool that we're not going to change. Yeah, like, I don't even know why they bother having that big, if you could come to a unanimous decision, they're not going to. If they don't change their minds on a revote, knowing what's at stake, no one's going to change, Jeff. That was obvious. So, Jessica getting the rock, well, I was bummed for her, but she was one of the more minor people, even though we were focusing on her because of the legacy advantage, which is why I put her on the pick to win. But giving it to Ken, she said in episode 4 or 5 that she was going to do that, so that's not a surprise at all. And I actually feel pretty good about Ken making it to day 36. Now, I know that sounds a little bit extreme because he's going to have to dodge 3 tribal councils and is in the minority, but I don't know. I'm pretty damn sure he's going to make it, to be honest with you, yeah. And since we're talking about the legacy advantage, what do I think the legacy advantage is? Well, I've done some thinking about it, and since I missed something previously that the legacy advantage can only be used on day 36, here's what I think it is. If I'm doing the math right, by day 36, they'll be down to 6 people going into tribal. So my thinking is the legacy advantage is probably one of 2 things. One, if Ken uses the thing, it'll give a jury member, most likely of his choice, the ability to vote, or it might give a jury member an option to give somebody immunity. Now, why am I saying jury members for both of them? Because the legacy word doesn't make sense unless really it's that eventuality, because past votes don't mean anything anymore. So what else is there for ramifications or a legacy than a jury member? Nothing. So I think the jury is going to come into play here, especially since Final 6 lately has been kind of chaotic for votes, because San Juan del Sur, John could have screwed it up by playing the idol, was a part, Carolyn played her idol, Cambodia, we all know what happened there. Koran, the Final 6 was when Ty used his advantage, even though nothing happened. Final 6 is where it's at now, not 4. So that's my bet as to what I think the legacy advantage is. But of course I could be wrong on that, but we'll find out once we get to day 36, which will most likely be the finale of this show. We'll see. See ya.